Hello, hello there, Internet Land. This is Carrie Thrall with ABC Coaching and Counseling. It has been officially announced that I am introducing therapy services also to my business. As a licensed provider, I am excited to be offering therapy services to those located in Colorado. And if you have a need for that, you can always comment or reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. But today, this is from my coaching side of life. I'm going to be giving you a training. Every week I come live on here to provide a training or an idea or some thoughts on a topic that could help you live a better life. And so with coaching, we focus on what's going well and how to make it work better, or what's the challenge and how to overcome it to move into a better future. So this topic today is one that is really valuable, especially as we start moving into the holidays. It's walking you through stress. Okay, what is the stressors that you're dealing with? What is your stress level? What are you doing with your stress? Are you processing it? Stress is one of those things that a lot of people deal with, but they don't necessarily realize how much of an impact it's having on their life. Okay, so let's talk about stress. So stress is our level of really impact. It's a level of exposure to things that are not necessarily working the way we want them to. All right. So, I can be stressed because I have 14 different things to get done in a day. I can be stressed because I have, somebody's not feeling well at home. I have work to do. I've got, bills to pay. I've got all these different to-dos and all these things in my head that's contributing to my stress. Stress is a natural phenomenon. It's really the process of which our bodies and minds and emotions help us to act on different things in life. So if we don't have stress, if we're completely relaxed, we're not necessarily being productive or growing. So a certain level of stress is valuable. It's really important to have a certain level of stress because that actually motivates us to action. But when we get to a place of overwhelm and the stress has gone too high, then we tend to freeze. Okay, so this is our stress response is meant to help us when we're exposed to a danger. Okay, so we have a stress response that if there's a threat present, an immediate threat, we want to have a quick reaction, right? So our body will go into a whole natural response that will get us away from the threat. So for instance, if my house is on fire right now, I would not be talking to you. I'd be getting out of the house. Like my muscles would have a whole bunch of blood flow to get them moving out of the house. I would be making sure that everybody else is out of the house and getting away from the fire. Okay. I won't have emotions typically. You won't have emotions when you're exposed to life or death danger like that. And your behavior is going to be survival instinct. Okay. So it's not going to be something you're having to think about. You'll just go into it. All right. So that's a threat response. Now, when our stress levels are high and there's not immediate danger, we still go through that. We still have the stress hormones push through us, and yet we don't have anything to act on. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky, right? So now we have all this stress hormone that's activated in our body, but nowhere to spend it. So let's talk about the primary stress response, secondary stress response, and the effects of stress. Okay, so our primary stress response is really going to be that urgent response, right? Like this is immediate response. So whether there's a danger present or not, we go through this. Our blood will be carrying more oxygen to our big muscle groups, and it also thickens up to potentially stop bleeding if it's a danger that could expose you to bleeding. It's crazy how quickly all these happen. Our sweat glands start up to try and cool the body off. Our body also will try to expel any excess stuff in it. So a lot of people will talk about diarrhea, having to go to the bathroom, vomiting. That's immediate stress response, especially if there's a threat present. Your digestion will actually shut down. So people will also think about like, man, my stomach hurts. When you're super stressed out, people will talk about all sorts of different digestive issues. It's your body's indicator that it's having a stress response and it's not sure what to do. Okay. Your lungs, you're going to be breathing a lot more shallowly for a lot of people. You'll notice that, especially with the increased blood supply, it's trying to get more oxygen, so you're breathing more quickly. And some people will talk about when they are really stressed out, they start to hyperventilate. They'll start breathing so quickly that they don't really get enough oxygen or enough air in. So it can be a real big problem with the way you breathe when the stress level is, especially if that immediate response. All right. Our muscles tense in readiness for action. Again, this is that fight, flight, freeze response. Our skin pales because, again, the blood has been diverted to the big muscles group. So a lot of times people will say that they look pale. It's because all the blood's going to the muscles to act. Doesn't need to keep your complexion up. And your heart will begin going harder. So it'll be pounding. You'll notice it's carrying all those stress hormones, and it's got to move all this oxygen. So it's moving really quickly. So people notice their heart starts racing and they'll start saying it's pounding. So again, that's our immediate urgent response to a lot of times a serious threat. So again, you'll see that kind of response when you're in a dangerous situation. All right. Car accident, house on fire. If you're exposed to any kind of robbery or legitimate threat, that's what your body will start to do. Now, the secondary stress response, this is when it's ongoing stress. And this is where you maybe not dealing with it very well. Okay, so it's just sort of piling up. The image that comes to mind for me is running on the hamster wheel. Okay, that you just keep going and going and going. So you might notice your skin complexion is actually getting worse because, again, blood flow is being diverted. It's working harder because of ongoing stress. Your blood thickens to move oxygen going. So if you have high stress for a long period of time, you have thicker blood. Your blood is working harder to try to move this oxygen around. Your heart is continuing to go up. A lot of people know they have high blood pressure when they have ongoing stress. Again, it's trying to push this thicker blood through the body. Okay, your cholesterol can go up because, again, it's not getting flushed out the way it's supposed to, and it's the high cholesterol in the blood can cause the hardening of the lungs or the arteries, and it makes it harder to get the nutrients you need and everything throughout your body because everything's not working the way it's supposed to. Digestion shutdown can lead to more issues. You really can have more ulcers. More people have chronic digestive issues. The lungs are oxygenated and they're working hard. It could upset heart rhythms. I mean, stress response, if you have an ongoing long-term stress response, it's going to mess up your insides. Okay. Digestive issues, heart issues, lung issues, brain issues, vision issues, all of it. If you are in overwhelm for a long period of time, your body is going to say, this is too much. Okay. The lower level experiences will be like your skin is not looking the way it should. Maybe you feel like your heart is racing more frequently. Maybe you're not feeling focused. Your muscles are tense a lot. You might feel like your shoulders are up by your ears because you're holding your tension there. So that's the secondary response. So the urgent response, again, is the flight, fight, freeze response. And then you've got the secondary response, which is ongoing stress that's undealt with, starts to have chronic health issues show up. Okay. Now, warning signs, this is where it would be valuable to start paying attention to your body's signals. Okay, so I'm going to go through, I'm looking over at a worksheet I have over here, the different symptoms that start to show up that could be really valuable to say, okay, my stress isn't being well managed if this is showing up for me. So frequent headaches. I'm getting headaches all the time. It means that your stress, partially it could be the stress is not being resolved. Nausea, indigestion, breathing issues, like you're feeling like you can't ever catch your breath. Any of these, I would go talk to your doctor about, number one. If it's stress related, I would add in stress techniques, stress management techniques to help get beyond that. Okay. And if you're with me on this, if you're hearing this and can relate to this, be sure to put a comment in the chat so that we can, or any questions you have, put those in the chat too, so we can talk about them. Increased sweating. You might find that you're sweating a lot more. Your dizziness, maybe some dizziness, and sleep disruptions. Okay, so all of these different things physically start to happen because of ongoing undealt with stress. Okay, it's a warning sign. If I have 4 nights in a row that I don't sleep well, I check in with myself and say, okay, what's going on? Is this something that I can resolve with some stress management, or do I need to talk to my doctor? Okay. Behaviorally, you might notice that your appetite changes. You might start eating comfort food. I've had a hard day, so I can go have that cookie, or I can have that extra drink tonight. Impatience. You might be really impatient with yourself or with other people, feeling like I need to get so much done. Why aren't you working faster? Okay. And really poor productivity, which is really interesting. Like stress, and when it's too high, leads to less productivity, because what I what happens in my head is that I focus on too many things at once and I don't get anything done. Okay. So this idea of like productivity, if I have just the right amount of stress, it'll motivate action. I'll get more done. If I have too much stress, I won't get anything done. Okay. Avoidance of situations and places, changes in sleeping patterns, increased alcohol, drug use. Again, the comfort foods, increase poor behavior, right? Like our behaviors, the bad habits start to come up. Aggression, irritability, maybe even absent from work or absent from things that are important. Emotionally, more anxiety, more stress, or sadness, low self-esteem, feelings of isolation. All of this can be warning signs that stress levels are high. You're doubting yourself because the stress is too high. You're feeling guilty and shameful for doing something for yourself because you have other things you're supposed to be doing, right? So like these emotional responses start to come up. You could have big increased levels of anger and irritability, feelings of panic and anxiety. All that can be tied to unresolved stress. Okay. Again, some of these symptoms that I'm bringing up, if you're having them regularly, it will make sense to talk to your doctor about, especially the physical symptoms. The emotional symptoms, that would be important to say, okay, let me keep track of these. Let me see what might be triggering these, and what can I do about them. Our thoughts, this is a spot that a lot of people get stuck in, is our thought patterns. We go into a place of indecision, especially when stress is high. It feels like I'm muddled. I have too many things in the brain that it's like I just won't do anything. I avoid. I start isolating. I start becoming more vague and forgetful. I start feeling like what's wrong in this situation is global, right? So then I start looking at the bigger picture rather than what I can control in a situation. I get oversensitive to criticism. I feel rushed. I have really poor concentration, but then I also can't switch it off. Like I can't turn off at the end of the day. So there's all these different symptoms and warning signs. And I'd encourage you, if you're struggling with stress, keep a log of what your warning signs are, what your symptomology is, so that you can say, hey, these are the signs and symptoms of my stress. Because what I just listed off here, these are all symptoms that could be a wide variety for a lot of people. You could have all of them, you could have some of them, you can have one of them. If you're stressed out, check in with yourself and say, what am I doing to manage the stress or resolve the stress? Not just avoid it and put it away, because it's just going to add up on you. All right. So something you can do to manage stress, breathing is number one. Check in with your breathing. If it's really shallow and chest breathing, try and do belly breathing and take deep breaths from your belly. That's a really good one. And there's techniques that if you have questions on it, you can always reach out to me. I can give you a good script for that. Meditation or journaling. Again, if there's stuff that's going on up here and you can meditate and calm your body down and calm your mind down, it can really resolve a lot of that stress. Regular brain dumps, like clear your head. Whatever's going on up here is causing stress. Put it on paper so that you don't have to think about it anymore. If you don't think about it anymore, then you can get through the stress a lot easier and be more productive, cross things off the to-do list and take away some of the stress. So this is where a lot of times it's counterintuitive, but the more you do, the less stressed you'll be, because what you're stressing about is what's on the to-do list. If you get overwhelmed with stress, you don't do anything, right? Now we're just continuing on this negative stress cycle. So being able to minimize the stress will help you do more to lessen the stress. Okay? Ongoing. All right. So those are some ideas. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas of your own of how you manage your stress, I'd love to see them in the comments. And if you're watching this on a replay, definitely write down or comment on what you've learned. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week. If you have topics or ideas that you also would love for me to cover, put those in the comments or the chat, and I will see you again soon. Handle that stress because it'll overtake you. All right. Take good care, everybody. See you in a week.